Hey guys, Zedd here, bringing you yet another Soul Calibur video. I'm doing a double upload today because I'm feeling like doing it, feeling good. Anyway, okay. Today we're gonna be going over my tier list. Patch 1.40 just came out recently, so this tier list will be based more around what I had before, because 1.40 had pretty much buffs to everybody across the board. So I don't think anyone dropped a tier because of the patch. If anybody, I moved a couple characters up. So I still think I can make this video and I think it'll still be relevant even going forward in 1.40, but we'll see. So I've had a lot of people asking me for a tier list video all over the place, Twitter, YouTube, Discord, whatever. So I'm going to make it for you. I'm going to go over it one by one. I'm going to kind of give my quick little thoughts on each character, maybe like pros and cons or whatever. I'm not too sure. I'm just going to kind of make it. I have a rough sketch I'm going to go off of. I kind of looked at this beforehand. I think I have an idea of where I want everyone to go, but I may adjust it as the video goes on. So it might be a long one. I'll have a timestamp on the screen here and then in the description if you want to just go right to the final tier list. All right, so going into it, first off, let me start by saying I don't think there's a single character in Soul Calibur that is unplayable, even at a competitive level. So I think that's a really good thing, and I think that the game is really well balanced overall. Which is super awesome. But I do think that there are still some outliers in the upper tier, and I think there are still some in the lower tier. But then the mid tier is really just kind of filled with everybody else. Yeah, anyway, enough jabbering on them. Let's get started here and get right into it. Now, I'm not sure really how I want to start it, but let's maybe do... I don't know, let me just bring something up here. Sorry, my little rough draft. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to start with the top tier because I think there are 5 top characters in the game right now, and we can just get those out of the way. And then I'll organize them and talk about them in a moment. So first, we have Ivy, we have Azwel, we have, where is she? Sungmina, we have Astaroth, and we have Siegfried. So let's see, these 5. Oh man, I'll just go from like left to right here. So Siegfried is kind of crazy. He basically has 2 patches ago he got a couple buffs that were pretty crazy, but 1.4 even buffed him even more. So in 1.4 they buffed his AGA and his AGA adjust frame because he needed it. In the patch before that, they gave him iframes on his 2B plus K when he's in a certain stance. I can't remember the names, I'm sorry. But when he spins to the left and spins to the right, that stuff has invincibility frames against vertical attacks now. Because again, he needed it. Base hold B got a guard breaker. I wouldn't say that's a huge deal, but it's a thing nonetheless. This character is just crazy. He's super unga bunga, but he does so much so well. Dark Legacy is such a strong comeback mechanic because he gets access to so many different lethal hits, and then if he wants to just hit the button, it leads to full combo, and it's an armor move, it is huge, it's a threat, and when he's in Dark Legacy, some moves even just get extra damage anyway. And the way that they've changed it now to where it doesn't require so many different ticks of his Ma Hand and then his critical edge, it's kind of just crazy. And using Ma Hand actually leaves him, I could be wrong, I think he's actually plus a little bit now, or neutral, whereas previously it wasn't even his turn after landing it. So if a good Siegfried player can make use of his critical edge, as well as his Ma Hand, he can actually get 2 Dark Legacies consistently in a round, and it's so crazy. This character does a lot of guard damage, a lot of damage. He's not even all that slow if you play him well, and his tools are simple but effective, and it's kind of just crazy. He does everything, truly. If I was organizing this list, I think it'd probably maybe look something like maybe this. Yeah, okay. All right. So let's talk about Astaroth. Astaroth, oh my, this character is so dumb. So pretty much ever since day one, I knew this character was fine. He didn't need any buffs, but he has gotten only buffs ever since the beginning of the game. This character, this character has everything. He now even has an I-12 because he needed it. In 1.40, he has new combo routes to lead into more wall splat and ring outs because now he has more air grabs, or different ones, I should say. He now gains more soul meter off of a broken command throw because he needed it. He is so rush down. He can play keep out if he wants to. He has mid horizontals. He can now cancel his held bull rush, and when he's in soul charge, that means he can literally spam a random armor just because he wants to. You can literally do armor bull rush cancel, armor bull rush cancel, armor bull rush cancel, and just keep armoring in at the opponent to kind of retake your turn unless they do a low. He does so much. His grabs are disgusting. He hits you twice and you're dead. His 2-2B is such a good move. It knocks back like hell. It sidesteps. The range is insane. It's not even all that slow, and it does so much guard damage. And that's just one move. Never mind the fact that he has setups into crouch throws, setups into regular throws, setups into command throws. Like, oh, this character has so much. Like, you think a grappler character should be a bit slow? Astaroth isn't slow. You think a grappler character shouldn't be able to play zoning and keep out? He can do zoning and keep out. You think a grappler shouldn't have the speed and rushdown tactics of a rushdown character? Guess what? He can do it. Like, Astaroth literally does every single thing in the game well, with very few weaknesses. What you can try to do is poke him down with a bunch of different lows, and his reversal edge game is super scary, but the reversal edge itself is kind of weak, so it's not often an Astaroth will reversal edge you. But at the same time, you really don't want to be reversal edging Astaroth, which is also stupid because it's a good option to his throw mix-ups. And his held command throws even turn into break attacks. Just why not? Anyway, the character is so stupid. He's so unga and it works, and I hate it. And this character needs to stop getting buffs. Stop it. Astaroth is insane, and if you don't know why or how, oh man, there's a couple different pros out there. Like Rakuto is a very good Astaroth. Wow, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. Klob is a really good Astaroth. There are others out there, I'm sure, but this character is so dumb. So dumb. Sungmina, oh man. Sungmina is kind of dumb as well for similar reasons to Ivy. But Sungmina, what makes her so crazy is she has one of, if not the strongest soul charge in the game, at least top 3. Everything, all of her good buttons all of a sudden become break attacks, because why not? They also get faster. She has some of the best keep out in the game. In 1.40, they actually buffed her 6B, so now she has a mid threat at range as opposed to just ducking her 6A and 1B and jumping and sidestepping that. Her combos are so stupid. Like, she will carry you from edge to edge and ring your ass out for free, and if it's not free, guess what? She'll critical edge your ass after splatting you to the ground, which then relaunches you, which you can then get run. Like, it's so stupid. This character's ring out game is rivaled by few, and it's so easy for her to do, and I hate it. Every combo she does just resets her at her optimal range. She gets extra bonuses for hitting with the tipper of her weapon, which is ridiculous. Like, other characters don't get that. Other characters want to play at their optimal range, sure, but Sungmina literally gets like twice the benefit from playing at her optimal range, and her close-up game isn't even bad. Like, it's not even bad. This character's Oki is so stupid. Her guard crush is so stupid. Oh, that's the other thing I forgot to mention with Astaroth and Siegfried. Like, every character on this top 5 fits the guard gauge meta, like, super well. They can all destroy your guard meter, except for maybe Ivy, but that's up for debate. Sungmina truly just, again, does everything you want. She's super, super basic. Her combos are a little tricky to execute, I'll admit, if you want to be optimal. Her ring out game is amazing. Her Oki game is amazing. Her soul charge is amazing. Like, she has it all, truly. Her close-up game is great as well. Like, this character has so much. It's absurd. You'll notice that these top 5 are clearly the top 5 in my opinion anyway. Ivy, Ivy is Ivy's a character who I think a lot of people would agree is easily just such a pain in the ass to play against. And again, this is another character who keeps getting buffed where she doesn't need it. So, Ivy has insane keep away and zoning, but she is complemented by having the strongest throws in the game via Calamity Symphony and Summon Suffering, which she can buffer while walking forward. This is probably the one thing that bothers me the most about this character is her ability to buffer her grab, and you don't even have to be good at it. You don't even have to be fast. You can be slow and still get the throw out, and it's so stupid. She does so much damage. The worst part is it leaves you right in front of her, so her Oki game is literally a mix-up after a grab. In theory, she can grab loop you if you make the wrong read every time. And that is so unhealthy for the game. This is a zoner and a keep away character we're talking here. Yet she has god status Oki game. Like, what? What? On top of that, her soul charge is so good now that they've buffed some aspects of it. Her stance just got a new move because again, she needs it. Serpent's Embrace now has a grab. Yes, it's not high damaging, I know, but it puts her in a situation where you're in a pseudo mix-up. There's nothing truly guaranteed off of it, but it is still a humongous threat, and it's something else now, another layer you have to consider. The other garbage thing with this character, if we're talking Oki, is she has a low-mid mix-up at mid-range, or even Oki, and it's insane. Now, of course, there are a counterplay to that, but it's still insane that she even got it in the first place. I can't believe they gave it to her in this game. I don't think she needed it, and this character has been top 5, top 3, top 2 even the entire time Soul Calibur 6 has been out. This character is so ridiculous, and she really does shut down, like completely shuts down some matchups in the game. If you're playing a short range character that doesn't have fantastic approach tools, like for example Maxi or like Valdo can struggle, Shenghua can struggle a lot. Like some matchups are just awful to play against Ivy with. This character is so silly, but she is definitely up here. And again, I might rearrange these later on, but you get the idea. And kind of in 5th place in our top 5 here, I will put Azwel. So Azwel is... Azwel, a lot of people consider Azwel to be kind of cancer, for lack of a better term. I disagree. I think there's just a lack of understanding, and I think there's a lack of lab. He is my secondary, so I've labbed the character, of course. And Azwel's biggest weakness is also his greatest strength. So his gimmick, in case you don't know, is when he is trying to use a weapon or a move of a different weapon that he's not equipped with, he's actually minus 8 frames. So the move he's trying to input is now 8 frames slower. With that said, a lot of Azwel's moves are either barely negative at all or even plus on block or hit. Or a neutral or plus on block, excuse me. What makes Azwel so scary by a lot of people's standards is the fact that he has a true mix-up on Oki after majority of his combos. So if he ends a combo with 6 BB, which is a double axe attack, you are now, as the defender, put in a bit of a situation where if you decide to get up and block incorrectly, he's going to do one of two things to you. He's either going to hit you with the axe B plus K, which is a low, I think it's approximately 50-55 damage attack throw animation, or he's going to hit you with 3B, which is a guaranteed lethal hit. So you kind of have to deal with the mix. Now, the Azwel may not opt to do these options. It's not even necessarily recommended that he always does, but the threat is still there. Online, I can understand why Azwel is such a problem. He is, like, that low is pretty much unseeable online. Offline, though, truly, I think players are just kind of... I'll be frank, I think they're being a bit of a bitch about it. There's really not much going on with this character. Even when he has the weapon equipped, it's not like all of a sudden he gets, like, 8 frame moves, 10 frame moves, like, 12 frame... Like, no. he still has normal frame data when he's equipped, and each different weapon gives him different strengths and weaknesses. Um, but then sometimes, if you're stuck, for example, if you're stuck on the defense and you're in axes as well, your fastest move is 14 or 16 frames. I can't remember which. Either way, it's a 6B. They did recently, however, give him access to a new move. It's not great, but it is I-12. It's while crouching A plus B. And while crouching A plus B is a non-weapon based attack, meaning it's the same frame data across every attack. It's nothing special. It's a vertical mid 16 damage move that can transition into his stances, but it's incredibly slow to do so. The idea is it gives him a fast defensive option when he's in axe, or gives him a normal button in shield. And what I mean by that is shield doesn't have a button you can just hit and feel good about it. Shield, basically every button in shield kind of has a function. It's very much the utility weapon of Azwel, I find, and it has access to some of his best moves, but they're not exactly moves you can just spam all the time. So um, swords has the problem of having no low. There is no sword low, period. So if he's equipped with swords, any low he does is going to be incredibly slow, so you don't even have to cheat duck. A lot of the stuff is either sidesteppable or duckable in swords, which is not very good either. The sword B plus K launcher is incredibly risky, as it's launch punishable on whiff or block. So yeah, he's not the perfect package by any means, and like, no, he's not hard to play, and his combos are incredibly easy to execute, but at the end of the day, he doesn't have access to all these tools all the time. People just get overwhelmed by the different axe pressures the different kinds of axe pressure that he can apply. People just don't like the design of the character, and I think on launch it left a sour taste in people's mouths. I do think he's a good character, don't get me wrong, but I think players are putting a little too much unnecessary hate on this character when I truly think it's a matter of just not labbing the character, because there's really not much to look at. He's pretty straightforward. Yeah. Anyway, I'll move on. But basically, Azwel's a very good character. I'm not trying to downplay that, but I don't think he's as insane as people say he is. All right. Anyway, so our next row is going to be, excuse me. Our next row is going to be, where is he here? Raphael, Yoshimitsu, Zeslamel, Mitsurugi, yep, and Shanghua. Where are you at? There we are. Alright, so, again, being vague. Alright. So Raphael, going left to right, Raphael is a really neat character. He's very execution heavy, and that is saying something, as Soul Calibur is not a terribly difficult game to play or pick up and play. But Raph has a lot of stuff. Like, he's got a lot of unique tools. And what makes him, high tier is that he just has some of the strongest buttons in the game, some of the strongest tools. So for example, he has a bunch of different lethal hits that just have to do with punishing, which is really nice. He has his different stances that do different automatic, like parries and tech ducks and stuff. Some of his lows are incredibly fast. His combos lead to amazing Oki. Amazing. If he finishes with, I believe the button is 8A plus B or 2A plus B, I can't remember. He flips over you and you're kind of floating in the air for a minute and you splat down. His Oki is incredible off of that. He does a little below average damage. It's not bad by any means, but like, his damage isn't anything to write home about. But what he has going for him is he has an I-10, and his I-10 is a vertical. That's the key. So his 6B is 10 frame vertical, reaching, lunging, and that is pretty much how he starts his offense. I believe it's 6BB6 or 6BB hold, I can't remember which, but he just starts his offense as soon as he lands at 6BB. The really cool thing about Raphael, and this is what makes him so dangerous, is some of his combos are actually strictly frame based. He can literally connect certain moves just because he's so plus on hit or counter hit that your feet haven't even left the ground yet, and he's still getting the combo started. So he has a lot of different tools. He's not broken by any means, but if you can master this character, he is incredibly difficult to handle. But mastering the character is incredibly difficult. So Raph is a really fun character. He's way too much for me personally. I like the more simplistic characters, but a good Raph is something to be feared, for sure. Yoshi is similar to Raph. This character can actually be played one of two ways. You can play him very fundamentally and basic as, again, he's got an I-10, and his pokes are actually really good. And if anyone's familiar with Tekken, he basically has a Hell Sweep, and his Hell Sweeps, he's got more than one, are relatively fast lows that lead to full combo. In Soul Calibur, not that many lows, very, very, very few lows actually lead to a true combo. So Yoshi has that going for him. However, they are rather punishable. So you do have to be a little careful. Um, Overall, the character is a little stubby. He doesn't have the best range, but he is incredibly frustrating and confusing to fight as he has a lot of different rather fluid stance transitions and a lot of complicated movements. Like, he's very confusing to look at and play against. So if you're playing against an opponent who isn't really familiar with the matchup, or even someone who is, he's a lot. Like, he's just a lot to deal with, and his frame data is very good. Again, aside from some of his lows, and he has a lot of tools. Like, he's got a toolkit. He's a very confusing character. He's a little easier to play than Raphael, but even that can be argued. But again, excellent character. He is one of the two characters that has access to Brave Edges. So he can actually spend half of his meter to amplify certain attacks to do certain things. And this gives Yoshimitsu an edge both in the neutral game as well as his combo routes. And just something else for you to think about as a defender. He's a very strong character, but again, not broken by any means. Mitsurugi is one of those characters that they can make broken by accident if they aren't careful. So Mitsurugi has some of the best neutral mix-ups in the game. Yes, they're unsafe, but they are super, super quick. His soul charge is pretty scary. He gets an extension off of some of his best attacks. Granted, again, unsafe. What makes Rugi so good is his fundamentals. His fundamental game plan is so strong, with a little bit of an emphasis on rushdown, I'll admit. Whereas Geralt I know he's later down the list, but Geralt has more of an emphasis on defensive play. Rugi has a bit of an emphasis on offensive play, but they're both very fundamental characters. Mitsurugi just got a new command actually in 1.40 that is worth mentioning. It is 6/6 AA slide G. So what this does is a move that is normally kind of meh. It gives Rugi an option. Now, I don't know how good this is, as I'm no Rugi main by any means, but it gives him an option to get in there, and he finishes in misstance, which, it has some stuff. He's got a very simple kit, but it's effective. He's got some of the best lows in the game, just like Yoshi. He's got really nice thrusting jabs. He has the fastest critical edge in the game. Like, it's ridiculous. I believe it's I-10 or I-12 as well. And he's very solid. He's very solid. He has some frame issues with, again, if you finish some of his strings or you block some of his low follow-ups. But here's the thing. With Rugi, you don't have to do those follow-ups to play an effective Rugi, and that's what makes him so potent. Is you as the defender kind of feel like you're in a perpetual mix-up. When he's in relic stance, I believe it is, where the sword is in the sheath, he can do double A for a guard breaker. He can do AB for a breaker, mid follow-up. He can just do A and then guard impact, and then that does follow-up damage. Like, he has a lot of really solid rush-down tools to work with, but he can slow the game down and play fundamentals all he wants. He has an incredibly fast counter hit attack. I think it's 3A or like BA or something silly like that. He basically jabs you with the hilt of his sword, and it's a crumple stun. It's a really good move. It leaves him super mega plus. And he's a really good character. Zaslamel, man, Zaslamel is bullshit. Zaslamel only needs about 5 moves to win the game, and it's so frustrating. His string game is some of the best in the game. His strings they either have like a high duckable version that leaves him Mega Plus, or he has a mid version that still leaves him neutral or plus. Usually the mid option is either sidesteppable and the sidesteppable and it's a mid, whereas the high option is traditionally duckable, or obviously it's a high, but it's a horizontal. Here's the problem. You don't really know which one's coming until it's too late, and it's not as easy as just GIing both follow-ups because he can just do them right away. He doesn't have to delay his strings. He doesn't have to charge the attacks. He doesn't have to do any of that. But he can, and that's the thing. When Zaslamel is playing well, you as a defender kind of have to play his game. Zaslamel commands presence when he's in the game, and part of that is his strings, but the other part is the fact that even in his combos, he can finish with a literal Oki mix-up, a literal vortex where you have to make the read. Either he does a low into a mid and you're resetting the situation, or he flips over you again, which is again resetting the situation. It's incredibly scary and you have to just take one of them. The other thing is his critical edge. Oh my god. So his critical edge is fundamentally broken. The meme is Galaxy Brain because you can throw it out wherever you want and get away with it. It is a break attack guard impact that you can't low him out of. It's a mid, you can't duck it. It's a vertical, but it's, good luck sidestepping it. The time that the animation actually starts to when the attack happens is way too fast. Even if you make the read with a break attack, it is still faster than your break attack. True story. Like, his critical edge is so ridiculous. And don't even get me started on Zaslamel's curse mechanic. His curses are also insane. Like, that character, he has so much. But what makes him a bit, what doesn't make him broken is that, yes, technically, you can just take his strings and it's not the end of the world. His guard damage is nothing really to write home about, so you can kind of just keep taking it. And his critical edge, while as strong as it is, if you're very, very, very patient, you can kind of bait it out. And the other thing, and kind of the last point, is his damage. Again, nothing to write home about. He has super mega good reverse ring up potential, but so do a lot of other characters. So it's not really special to Zaslamel anymore, as much as it used to be in previous installments. So he's not broken, but he is pretty insane. Again, very, very simple, but effective. If you want to have like a mix-up character that just commands the field, like maybe you're someone who kind of suffers in neutral and footsies and maybe you don't have the best fundamental game, Zaslamel is a really good option for you because he can kind of make up that weakness with super ridiculous neutral game. Xianghua, ever since launch, I've always said Xianghua, in my opinion, is the pinnacle of balanced in this game because she has no overbearing strength, no overbearing weakness. If anything, her greatest strength is the fact that she's incredibly safe, like really safe. It's very hard to punish Xianghua. And her greatest weakness is her range. It's really awful, aside from some verticals that are super mega easy to sidestep. She has a stance that's not great. She has a crouching throw, which only 2 characters in the game have, with her and Astaroth, so that is super awesome. It gives her another tool. She has auto GI moves via 246 A plus B, but it's not like you have to make the read. You really do, and unless of course the opponent is using strings that have a GI-able section of them, but any good player playing against a Xianghua just simply isn't going to use these strings because that's just asking for death. Her poke game is second to none, truly. Like, she will win the game just by being like a mosquito and constantly poking you down time and time again. She has some of the best, fastest lows in the game that, again, are just poke damage, but it adds up. Like, her combo damage is a bit of a joke compared to most of the cast, if not all of the cast, but her pokes add up. Like, she can just keep going and going and going. She can cycle plus frames if she gets the opportunity. She's so safe, and there's nothing to look out for when you're playing against Xianghua because you kind of just have to understand that you need to take your turn, and you also have to relinquish your turn. She has an I-10 with 5 AA and an I-12 with 4B. So, like, when you're playing against Xianghua, when it's not her turn and you take your turn, you have to give up your turn. You have to, or else you're putting yourself at risk of getting either beat out, punished, or simply like you can go for the GI or the 2A retake, but like that's not safe against Xianghua at all. It's like Xianghua really slows down the game. Truly. She slows down the game to the point where it's your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn. Whereas some of these characters can just keep on taking their turn over and over and over. When you're playing against or with Xianghua, the turns will be alternating. You have to be ready to take it. I think she is incredibly well-rounded. Again, aside from maybe her range issues, she's a really solid character. She has no horizontal mid though, and I think that would be her biggest weakness, is a lack of a real horizontal mid that she just has access to in neutral. A lot of other characters, especially in these top 2 tiers, do have them, and she does not though. So that is the one thing with Xianghua. She doesn't need it though, to be fair, but if I could add anything to her kit, it would be a horizontal mid. I don't want damage buffs on Xianghua. She doesn't need more damage, otherwise she'd be broken. She has some of the safest launchers in the game. Well, she has fully safe launchers, that maybe is a better statement, via full crouch 3B and 2-2B. But no, she's a very solid character, very fundamental, very poke heavy, but she has the tools to work with. Okay, our next row is a bit of a longer one here. It's going to be Talim, Nightmare, Amy, Sophitia, Grow, Killick, and 2B. Grow, Killick, 2B. Okay. Let's just get them all on the screen here. And again, I kind of mocked this up before I started recording, so I do already have this kind of written out and spaced out. I'll put up a finished picture at the end of the video so you can see it in its entirety. But anyway, so this would be your mid tier. And again, I think every character in this game is good, and that's why I'm starting the list so high. I don't think anyone's below like mid B tier. Everyone in the game is good. So anyway, this would be our mid tier. The guys above here, I would say, are our high tiers. Like, you can pick any of these 10 characters and not feel like you're at a disadvantage at all. Like, all 10 of these characters will be able to hold their own in every single matchup in the game. And that's kind of what makes them so high tier. Or in the case of the super top tier, they either have everything you want or deal insane guard damage. But these 5 right here, Raf to Xianghua, these are like really solid characters. The tier below, so Talim to 2B, these characters, now you start getting into the characters that have outstanding weaknesses, or maybe they have poor matchups, or maybe they, maybe they just suffer in one way or another, but they're still good characters. Not saying they're bad, they just suffer in some areas. Okay, so going left to right again. Hold on. Sips water, asterisk. Okay. Talim is a really interesting character. I actually love playing against Talim. I think it's a lot of fun. She really speeds up the game, and she forces you as a defender to get moving, right? So what do I mean by that? I mean that she forces you to either stop her from attacking, dodge one of her attacks, or GI. Like, you cannot really turtle against Talim. That is a mistake. That is not a good idea against a good Talim. What makes her decent is that she has a really good soul charge. Her critical edge has the option to be held or cancelled. So it can be used like an approach tool, and then she can cancel out of it on the second hit and go into one of her stances. So she just has that option, whereas other characters, I think there's only one other character in the game who can actually do something with her critical edge, aside from just use it. And so Talim has that option for her. Her reversal edge is very unique in that she has the ability to use it and cancel out of it again into her stances. So you'll see the trend here. She cycles her stances constantly, but then even her reversal edge and her Um, yikes. Critical Edge, sorry, her Critical Edge, both have the option to go into stances. Her Soul Charge really ups the ante. It gives her access to a bunch of break attacks. Like, I know a lot of characters get break attacks, but she gets like a whole truck ton, and they're good ones too. They're really good. Um, Talim is a very fast character. She's incredibly oppressive if she gets in your face. Her biggest weakness, obviously, is her lack of range. Her frame data is not bad. Some of her stance transitions are just uninterruptible, and you kind of just have to take it. Um, she does suffer from having a lot of high attacks though, both at the beginning and the end of some of her strings. So a good Talim is going to have to start saucing in more of her vertical mids, at which time you now are given the ability to sidestep. So both players, again, this is what I mean by Talim gets you to move. You have to play footsies with her. You need to keep going. There is no downtime in this matchup for either player. And that's kind of what makes her unique in that both as an offensive and defensive player, you have to make calls. You have to make reads. You have to take your turns. You have to know kind of when your turn is over. You need to have a heavy matchup knowledge into Talim in order to play the matchup effectively. And a Talim likewise she has to know how to optimize her turns in the matchups where she can get shoved out. So like Songmina, Ivy, Siegfried, Nightmare, Astroth, the list goes on. Atalam needs to take full advantage of her turn. She does pretty good damage. She has some really nice setups, and yeah, she has some stuff, but she does have some flaws as well, and that's why on this list I kind of have her as far left as it goes, because I think she's the most flawed out of every character on this tier. Moving on to Nightmare. Nightmare, I think, is a character that he suffers a lot from. He's not the only one. He suffers a lot from downplay and upplay. Some people think the character is insane, and usually it's the Nightmare mains who think he's garbage. I don't think either statement is true. I think he's actually in a really good place. Nightmare does not have an I-12 that he has access to. His only I-12 is back-turned 5k, but he doesn't need it. This character has really oppressive pressure if you let him get going. His Terror Charge passive is crazy. It's like one of the best, if not the best passive in the game, where he gets access to his Soul Charge buttons just because. He can end his combos with Terror Charge. He can cycle Terror Charge into Terror Charge. His Critical Edge is nothing to write home about, but it can literally win you the game because it does insane amounts of damage. His Soul Charge gives him constant Terror Charge, and his Terror Charge is terrifying if he can get the right hits. He has armor attacks on 6A, B, and K. He has the Nightmare Bubble, which is again armor attack. Like, he has a lot of really good tools, and like his stances are no joke. You have to respect this character stancing on you, because he has GIs out of them, he has armor attacks out of them, he has crushing attacks out of them. He has a lot. What makes Nightmare not really broken is, well, like I said, lack of I-12, so he does suffer a bit from heavy pressure, especially lows. Like, for example, Xianghua into Nightmare is so free for Xianghua because she can just use her fast lows and duck a lot of Nightmare's faster buttons. Pardon me, excuse me. And Nightmare's fast buttons are only high. She doesn't really have a fast mid or a low outside of maybe 3k, which is a mid. His 4K and 6K are good buttons, but they're nothing special. So if you can prevent a Nightmare from getting going, he's not all that scary. But if a Nightmare gets going, it's really terrifying. His wall game is super good, and he can just maintain that wall pressure. His guard damage, though, is really good, and that's kind of what keeps him in the conversation. But he's a really solid character. He does take a bit of adjusting to get used to. He's definitely, I would not call Nightmare a beginner character, truly. I think that this character requires a lot of skill to play, even though it doesn't really seem like it. Like, you wouldn't think, oh, the poster boy Nightmare. Like, no, I do actually think he's quite difficult to play. But a good Nightmare can really ruin your day. He has some of the biggest buttons in the game, like both horizontals and verticals, and I think that's maybe one thing that a lot of players overlook about the character, like even his kicks are far-reaching, is that every button Nightmare has reaches as far as some characters' vertical attacks. So he has some serious range. You just have to take advantage of it. And he's a really fun character to play as well. I've dabbled with him before, and I think he's really cool. But he's not bad. He's not bad. Amy, the newcomer to the franchise, or our newest DLC character. She's an interesting one. If I was making this tier list with Amy with maximum rose perception, white and red, I would put her up one tier, even probably between Yoshi and Rugi. But if I was making the tier list where she got no roses, I would put her one tier outside of where she is. But this isn't realistic. What is realistic is an Amy's ability to probably get 4 of one rose color, and that's probably going to be red, and not white. Probably. I could be wrong. Amy, like Tira, is very much a late game character in the sense that she has a trait and passive that builds up as the fight goes on. She gains access to new moves, more damage, more extensions, better tools, better GIs, more speed, better critical edge. Like, she just gets buffs in every realm except for, I guess, range, and even then, when she starts getting the rose stacks. The problem with Amy is the fact that she starts with 0. So, having figured this character out now and played against a couple different really good Amy's, I will say that if both players are aware of what she wants to do and how she wants to do it, and Amy is going to struggle to get her rose stacks. Now, the red ones are a lot easier to get because you can get them off of moves such as 1B, which is a very, very fast low stab, her 4B even just in neutral counter hit, and other stuff. But her white rose perception, that one's going to be a hard one to get 4 of. And if you do, it's going to be in like round 5. Like, there's no way you're going to get that any sooner in a competitive match, unless you're lucky. So what Amy suffers from is a lack of range, a lack of strength. Like, her damage is so bad because as a good Amy player should probably sacrifice damage for a rose stack, unless it gets the kill, of course, to generate those rose stacks. So she's only dealing like basically Jolly Tira levels of damage with no roses, and it's really pitiful. It's really pitiful. So she has to work really hard to get any damage on the board. Her best low 1B, again with no roses, her best low 1B is so stubby. Like, you could sneeze, step back, and like it would whiff you. Like, it's not a very powerful low. Her range is pretty bad too. Her frames are crazy though. Like, she's fast. Like, you got to be ready when you're playing against an Amy. She's a lot like Talim when she's in your face. You kind of just have to let her do her thing and look for your openings. Amy's kind of cool in that she has 3 different GI stances. One that GIs lows, mids, and highs. And the different attacks out of these different stances vary in their viability and effectiveness, but overall, her stance options are quite good. And she has setups to go into some of them, and overall they're good. And her GIs come out on frame, I could be wrong, frame 4, I believe. So she actually gets a GI pretty much the same speed as a standard GI when she uses her GI stances. So this is really, really good. And so a good Amy who is, high level and understands the matchups can take advantage of these and basically force her turn and set up an Oki situation and maybe even get a rose stack. She's a very complicated character to play on paper, but I think in practice it's not as bad as it sounds. Having labbed and played her myself. A good Amy will hopefully be able to get the red rose fully stacked and maybe a couple of white roses. But if you're playing Amy, I would just aim for getting red rose stacks and getting that stacked before the game is over. If you can focus on that, you'll be golden, because then when her red rose gets online, she gets really powerful lows, really powerful CE, and just really good whiff punishing as well. So without roses, this character is pretty low tier. With red roses, she's right in the middle here. With just white, I think she's right in the middle. And with both roses, I think she's high tier. So you can decipher that how you will, but I kind of decided to split right down the middle and throw her in the mid because of that. Sophidia. Sophidia is a really fundamental basic character. Her game plan is simple: poke you down and frustrate you, and whiff punish you to all hell. This character's wall game is so strong. She has some of the best wall combos in the entire game. Her critical edge is kind of a joke. It's not great, but what is special about it is it's a horizontal. So that is kind of neat. Her range isn't great, however, her stance options with Angel Step are good, and she has a lot of advancing moves. So she can, even though she herself doesn't have range as she wields a short sword and a shield, obviously, um, she is able to move in harm's way and deal damage. And that's kind of the difference between her and other mid-range characters, is she has to put herself in harm's way to actually deal her damage. So Sophidia, or this is also why Sophidia has built-in guard impacts. She's very evasive in nature, as she can sidestep out of her dashes. Um, but really what this character is focusing on is poking you down with lows and whiff punishing. That's this character's whole shtick. Her stab is, iconic, right? And knowing when to use it, it's a 14 frame punish that can in theory be 60-70 damage every single time if you got the double adjust frame. That's crazy. Like for I-14, that's crazy. So she's a really, really solid, well-rounded character. You don't need much to play her at a high level, but what she does need is you got to have good reactions or know exactly when your stab is going to work. Because if you stab and it's blocked, if I remember correctly, it's launch punishable by some characters. So you got to make every stab count. You can't just be stabbing all willy-nilly. And some of her stuff is incredibly negative. So you also got to be careful on what you're hitting and why you're doing it. So she's very, very, very fundamental, with a more heavy focus on whiff punishing and the punishment game and counterplay and things like that. So again, Rugi is more rushdown fundamental. Sophidia is more punish and counterplay fundamental. And then Geralt is more defensive fundamental. But she's a really solid character. I think she, again, like Shenhui, you could argue that she's kind of the embodiment of balance. She's really, really solid with a couple different strengths and a couple different weaknesses, as it should be. Grow's a weird one. He's super basic. He's kind of like, he's a newcomer to the series. He's kind of like the Ryu of this game. Still effective. Like Ryu is a good character. Ken is a good character. But man, are they easy. Like all these characters are mad easy to play. And Grow's biggest strength is his evasiveness. So he has lethal hits and moves that are designed to literally sidestep, punish, and lethal hit vertical attacks, and more than one of them as well. So he benefits from trying to keep that mid-range space, and kind of play that spacing footsies game and look for you to whiff and get in, because he too, like Sophidia, has some really good approach tools via 6-6 AA, 6-6 BB, and others. I haven't looked at the characters list in a while, so I don't know the notation off the top of my head, but he's got some stuff. His soul charge is kind of garbage. The teleports you get out of stance are not great. His Avenger stance, for that matter, is also okay, but the Grow has to be guessing right in order for it to be worth his time. He does have 2 different safe transitions into stance, and if that's the case, then it's not bad. But outside of those 2 transitions, it's not great. This character can again literally win with 5 buttons. He doesn't need to spice it up. Like if you want boring, dry gameplay that's effective, Grow's your man, and that's what makes him a really solid mid tier. I don't think he wants to be any lower or higher. I don't think he needs to be any lower or higher. Yeah, he's just really, really, really well rounded, and he can dodge verticals quite well, and that is very unique. Killick. Killick I'm on the fence about a little bit. I think, gosh, I don't know, like, I think I would actually swap Grow with Killick now that I'm thinking about it, but Killick is a character who I think a lot of people are saying he's getting worse as, kind of as the game ages. I'm not fully convinced yet. I'm not convinced yet, so I'm still happy with where he is right now on the list. What I think is good about the character is he has some really solid like sequences and strings. The monument parry and all that is quite good. He actually has some mix-up. His lows are solid. They're weak, but they're solid. His soul charge is crazy. Like, that's kind of what keeps the character in the conversation. His soul charge is nutty, and he can even cancel it now if he wants to for a very small health bonus, but at least he can cancel it. I think he's kind of being downplayed right now, to be honest. I think, you know, in the competitive scene, I know that Party Wolf isn't too happy with him right now, but at the same time, dare I say, I think just because Party Wolf is saying he doesn't like Healik anymore, all of a sudden everyone seems to think Healik is bad now. I think they're jumping on the bandwagon a little too hard, too quickly, maybe is more appropriate. I'm not sold yet. I think this character is still really solid. I think he's got a lot going for him, and you kind of want to play a more rushdown focused game with him. I mean, in the earlier stages of the game, you could have slowed it down, but I think Healik kind of wants to go ham, and really just own to that strategy, and I think it would work. His carry potential is really good. He's kind of like Songmina with their combo structure. It's very similar. They have fantastic ring out games and wall games if they get a really, really good launcher. So he's not bad, but I would listen to an argument that would plop him down a tier. I wouldn't be opposed to hearing that argument from someone. But for now, I'm happy with where he is. He's not a bad character, and yeah. 2B, 2B is an interesting one as well. She's pretty good. She's pretty good. She just got some new stuff in the patch that might actually, you know, change the way she's played a little bit. Overall, I think that a lot of players play her incorrectly. I don't think she benefits from being an aggressive shift like playstyle. I don't think that's correct. I think a 2B should be playing more neutral. She has some super far-reaching buttons. Her kicks are incredible. Like, all of her kick attacks are god tier. She's got fast low kicks, fast mid kicks, and her ability point, I think it's called, mechanic is actually really good if you can start generating them, as the lethal hits she gets off of them are crazy. Her kicks are also very safe. Her reverse ledge options are very good. She does have a bit of a mix-up out of her stance, so I'll give her that. But if you do stance A and the opponent does reverse ledge, the 2B has one play, and that is to backstep and then do, I believe it's B plus K, where she flips back again and throws two fists. That is her only play against reverse ledge. So she does have to be very careful with her stance. But a good 2B is quite scary, and a good 2B is a master of footsies and neutral, as she has some of the farthest reaching buttons in the entire game, and her horizontals are no joke, and her close game is no joke, because now she starts pulling out her kick attacks, which are very fast, very safe. There's even some built-in GIs there. She's very well rounded, but the issue with her is her frames. She's very negative on a lot of different stuff, so you kind of have to make every button count, and that's why she is where she is, and that's why she's not up there with Zas or Shanghua. Is her frame data startup is great. Like, the startups are really good, but she's quite punishable just overall. That'll do it kind of for that tier. And we actually only have one more tier to go, and that is going to be quote-unquote bottom tier. But even then, these characters are all fine, and again, you can make arguments to move any of them up or down. So we have Valdo, we have Tira, Maxi, and then Geralt, and then Cervantes, and then Taki. And even then, I might rearrange this a little bit afterwards. So the reason why these characters are bottom is either they lack the tools that a lot of the other cast has, or they have crazy bad matchups, or they just have severe design flaws and issues that kind of... You have to put in a lot more work to win with these characters than the rest of the cast. But that does not mean they're bad, by no means. And Geralt is probably the best example of that, but we'll get to him. So left to right, Valdo. Valdo's a weird one. His neutral is kind of trash. I think this character has the worst neutral footsies game in the entire game. Some people would have argued with me on that. I won't really listen. I think that his neutral footsies is garbage. The only other character that you might be able to argue on that one with me would be like Talim or Taki, and that's because they both just lack range. And even then, their approach tools are just better than Valdo's anyway. So at least they have a game plan. At least they have something going for them. Whereas Valdo doesn't really have that. What he has though is once he gets going, a lot like Nightmare. Once he gets going, he's in. Like he has a lot of natural hit combo starters, which is quite unique. A lot of characters, aside from their 3B, of course, usually have to get a counter hit or a crumple stun. Not Valdo. Valdo has a lot of different just launchers, which is pretty unique. If he can get into the Mantis Crawl mix-up on Oki, that's pretty scary. If he can get you, near a ring edge when he's Mantis Crawling, that's pretty scary. Like, when he is in a stance of some kind, he's kind of scary. And I only say kind of because technically you can GI both options and reverse ledge both options, and it's not that scary. But you do have to respect the Mantis Crawl 6/6 with head towards anyway, just because of the lethal hit. But aside from that, like if that move wasn't in his kit, if he didn't have that lethal hit, Valdo would not be, like he would be a shell of what he is today. He's very confusing, and learning the matchup does take a lot of patience. But once you know the matchup and what Valdo's game plan is, you'll notice it's very one-dimensional, and it's not like it's nothing you haven't seen before, and it's nothing that other characters can't already do. That is why he's so low. It's not that he's necessarily bad. Like I think the design philosophy was to make his neutral kind of crappy, but he is given options now to where he can kind of flip between front facing and back facing. He has really, really good rushdown options. It's just so do a lot of other characters. And so in Valdo's case, it's a matter of being outclassed. He's not a bad character at all. He's a little one-dimensional, but he's not bad. He's just severely outclassed, and that is the only issue. But he's still playable. He still has his gimmicks. He has more range than a lot of other rushdown characters in the game. And his critical edge. Oh man, his critical edge is so strong. When he's back facing, it's insanely fast. And when he's front facing, it's a tech deck and a backstep, and it's fast, and it's a horizontal both ways. Like his critical edge is no joke. It is so strong. Like I might even go so far as to say top 5 critical edges in the game. Like it's so insane. His soul charge isn't bad. It's nothing to write home about. But anyway, that's Valdo. Moving on to Tira. Tira suffers in a couple different fields. Her Jolly Tira damage is kind of trash, but that's not really the gimmick. Her Gloomy state damage is quite good. Gloomy's buttons are incredible as well. Gloomy is really good. If you could play only Tira and Gloomy, she would be probably high tier. But this isn't the case. You're stuck playing with Jolly Tira a lot of the time just because of the way she's designed. Jolly Tira has decent pokes, but like none of it's threatening. Like you have no reason to block low against a Jolly Tira whatsoever. The good lows are all reactable, and that actually can be said for Gloomy as well. She has decent range, truly. Some of her best buttons are 6BB and 6BK in Jolly, and that is a very, very good gap closer. The problem with Tira is in Jolly it's damage, and in general it's recovery. Like she's so negative on so much. Now a Tira can play to where they're not punished by anything. But some of her best moves are severely negative, and she has to play a very dry, poke-based game. Her combo structure is very unique, and she generates incredible amounts of meter in Jolly because of the new changes that she's received. But it doesn't matter. And like Gloomy Coda can be strong, but again, it doesn't matter. Because by the time she gets to Coda, the game either is over or basically is over. She's battling RNG constantly, so you have to either be really good at hit confirming your stuff or know that you're kind of fighting the system to play Tira at a competitive level. And the other thing is when you're stuck in Gloomy at less than 5% HP, you might as well write that round off. Because if you do any of the attacks, and there's a lot of them, if you do any of the attacks that have a chance to swap to Jolly, or you do any of the attacks that do self-harm, she's going to recoil back in a stunned state and the opponent's going to kill you. Like, if you... Oh, and to top it all off, she has the trouble of um, getting swapped back to Jolly out of Gloomy when being hit by a guard breaker. So for example, and at 30% health and at 5% health. Like, I know all this is supposed to help her get Coda, but trust me, it's just a bad thing. When playing against a character like Maxi or Nightmare, when they're doing combos on you with all their guard crushes that they use in combo, it's ridiculous how many times you're just kind of punted back into Jolly. It's like, oh, there goes my Gloomy. So, like, in general, she's fighting RNG. You have to hit confirm everything. Her combos are complete, like her good ones, her wall combos, are completely reliant on RNG and what you can do. And it's so, like, you're working so hard to do the same thing as every other character. Again, though, if you're down for that, she's playable. She's got some buttons. Her neutral game is really good. Her meaties on Oki are insane. Like, she's got some of the best Oki in the game. It's just you're going to be fighting the system, and that sucks. Her reversal edge is really, really, really good, though, which is unique. So, anyway, that's Tier. I think she's super cool. I just think that the way the game is designed, it hurts her too much. Maxi, Maxi's a weird one. He has some stuff. Like, he's got some stuff. Every combo, you might as well say goodbye to at least 30% of your life. He does so much damage, and his wall carry, his ring out game, his wall game, like his combo game in general is crazy. The problem is that Maxi has to really put himself out there to really net anything worth his time. So if a Maxi starts stancing on you, sometimes there's multiple option selects, there's ways to jab him out of it, the Maxi has to make the read, the defender has to make the read. Like, Maxi is taking unnecessary risk. Like, the idea is, why play Maxi and take all these risks when I can just play another character and take a lot less risk for the same reward, right? That's the idea. He's high risk and medium reward, but his combo game is absurd. He gets combos off of pretty much every freaking hit out of stance. He can combo in and out of his critical edge. His critical edge can lead to further ring out and wall combo game. His ring out and wall combo game is already really strong. And he just has really decent footsie buttons for a short, quote-unquote, short-range character. Like, his 3K is a really good 3K in the game. So he has a lot of good, but he has a lot of bad, and he has to take a huge risk to do it. But again, still playable. Still playable. You've got Rich Sticks, he plays him. My main scrim partner, True Circa, he plays him. IRM plays him. And a couple of players over in Japan play him as well. So, still a playable character, but just know you're going to be taking a lot of risk. But when you hit, it's going to hurt. Like, every hit this character does is crazy. Anyway, Geralt, Jerry of the River Styx, who skips stones across the lake. Jerry is really dry. If you can imagine Grow, but take away one or two more moves, take away the fact that he doesn't have a stance, now you have Geralt. Geralt has some of the longest reaching quick buttons in the game with his AA and BB. His AA and BB is so good. His While Rising B is really good. His 1K is really good. His 1A isn't bad. The follow-up's in it. His 6BB is super good. His 6.6 BB is super good. He has an auto GI parry for half a bar that's super good. Like, he has a lot of really unique and cool tools, but they're very cut and dry. He was designed with the intention of being easy to pick up. Again, very, very footsie and fundamental based. So if kind of Sophitia, Grow, Geralt, if that kind of thing is your style, he's super good. He just doesn't have a very large toolkit, and what that means is he doesn't have a lot of answers to a lot of problems. You kind of just have to start hitting your buttons with Geralt and hope they work. And Geralt plays the game that everyone wants to play the best, but that's not necessarily a good thing. So what I mean by that is, if we broke Soul Calibur down way back in the day, down to each character had 5 to 10 moves that were worth your time, Geralt's 5 to 10 moves are really, really solid, but they don't lead to anything major. Whereas everyone else on the cast, you kind of have like 5 to 10 moves that are good, but like there's a lot of other ones that you want to use for certain reasons. Geralt, that's not the case. You just he is what he is. You get what you get. There is no like, oh, what if I do this and to this and that? No, no. This character is cut and dry, like super bare bones, super basic, super far-reaching normals, fundamental. That's what you get. You get what you get with Geralt. There is no way around it. And he just, for that reason, he's not a bad character. He's just kind of outclassed. Because a lot of other characters can do what he does just a little better. But again, Geralt's not bad. I mean, you've got Linkhorst, one of the best Soul Calibur players in the world. He plays Siegfried and Geralt. So, as you can see, based on my tier list anyway, two polar opposites. So, that just goes to show you that every character has a place, and everybody likes what they like, right? Cervantes. Cervantes was in a really bad spot. Originally, like a couple weeks before I did this video, I actually had 5 tiers, and on the very bottom tier was Valdo and Cervantes. And Cervantes, he suffers from a lot of issues, but a lot of them are actually bug related. He's got a lot of bug issues, and they did fix a lot of them in 1.40, which is really good. They gave him a new move, K2, which is also quite good. They gave him new options out of Dread Charge, which is also quite good. Like, he got a lot of stuff that he needed. The trouble with him is, and his pokes aren't bad. Like, he's got some really good range on his pokes. They keep nerfing his damage, though. And so he has super good whiff punishing via IGDR. His wall game is really frustrating and annoying to deal with, as he has really good resets. He doesn't really have a great low option, but he doesn't need it per se. His 2K isn't bad. He's got some stuff, but what makes him a kind of a threat is his damage. He can generate a lot of damage off of every hit, and that's kind of what makes him scary. Every whiff punish he does can technically lead to a full combo, again, via IGDR, so you want to make sure you're not missing against the Cervantes. But his footsies game isn't bad. He's got some stuff. He just doesn't really have anything too crazy going for him. But, yeah, he's not bad. Excuse me, sorry, long video. And to finish it off, we have Taki. Now, Taki is one of those ones, a lot like Valdo, where you kind of just have to work really, really hard to accomplish the same task as a lot of other characters. Taki is super flashy, and I love the character to death, but she suffers from the fact that 90% of the time you can just 2A her when she goes into possession, and you're good. Either you're recovering fast enough that the B plus K doesn't punish you, or the Taki makes the read and does possession K. And that is the only option that actually beats 2A. Other than that, you're good to go. From what I've heard, though, from Taki mains, I know it's early, but apparently the new moves she got in 1.40 are going to help her a lot. She can cancel the B hit in possession to actually cycle possession, and she can cancel the K hit in possession to just cancel possession faster. So she can kind of flex it and then cancel if the opponent is getting a little too turtly. The Taki can say, okay, screw it, I'm not going to bother. She has some stuff. She does chip damage, which is unique. Her possession B does hella chip damage and guard damage. So if you don't stop a Taki from swinging at you, she's going to kill you eventually, whether that's through your guard meter or your chip. The thing with Taki is she has no lows that are threatening at all. Like, at all. And in theory, you can just eat everything she's doing and just wait for her to hang herself. And that's kind of where her fault is. She has some stuff, though. She's very evasive. Her possession stance can lead to frame traps and mix-ups. Some of her best moves, though, are quite punishable. And that's another issue that she's got, is her recovery is kind of bad on some of her better buttons. But again, still totally playable. It just really is going to have to work hard for those wins, much like a couple other characters on the roster. Alright, so that's my tier list, and just after I'm done my spiel, I'll post a little, image of my finalized tier list, which things aren't really going to be moving up and down, just left and right. But I know it was long-winded. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Note that I do update my tier list kind of on a week or bi-weekly basis. I like to tweak characters as I see fit if I think they need to be moved. In the case of this tier list, I'm really happy with where it is. I think Soul Calibur is in a really good spot in terms of balance. Although I do, part of me wants to say that the top 5 would be like kind of here, and then you have the rest. Like I do think there's a little bit of a gap between the top 5 and the rest of the cast, but it's not so big that it's like, you can only play these 5 characters to be competitive. But I do think that these 5 either need to be toned down a little bit, or the rest of the cast has to come up a little bit. And I think patch 1.40 was a really, really good step. Like, I've got nothing but good things to say about the patch for the most part, but I really don't think that these top 5 needed to get the buffs that they got. Because it just kind of kept them in their spot, and it's not really fair to some of these other characters who have been pretty trash the entire time, such as Valdo, Maxi, Cervantes, Taki, and Tira. But even then, some people would argue with me, so I'm not really going to include here. These 4 characters really need some serious love in general if Soul Calibur wants to make a fully balanced game. I don't even really want a fully balanced game. I just think that we're not quite to a stage where I'm happy. Anyway, kind of droning on here. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. I hope you liked the double upload today, and have a good rest of your day. And here is my finalized tier list.